Hello, welcome back to Module 5. We're going to finish up Module 5 with our second case study, and I rearranged this a little, so hopefully this will be a little bit more useful and you'll actually be able to see it. I hope you were able to see it last time. I'm looking at this tiny little screen about this big, so it's hard for me to tell. But yeah, focusing on that a little more. And for this case study, this is an adult, and this is a acute wind heat. So we have, I've written some of the key points up here, and then I'm just going to read through it. So this is a 41-year-old male, and this came on quickly. Last night it began in his throat. He was feeling generally unwell, and by the time he woke up this morning, he had a terrible sore throat. He could barely swallow. Some burning pain up into his right ear. His sinuses are blocked up and burning. He's blowing out just small amounts of bright yellow, sticky phlegm. He's been very flushed, with interspersed with periods of being freezing cold. He has moving, stabbing pain in his joints. He's very thirsty for cold water. He's not coughing. He has a sharp frontal and vertex headache. And last week he'd been working until 10 or 10:30 every night to meet a deadline. And then he had weekend guests following that, and he's just super run down and wasn't surprised when he felt it coming on last night, but was a little surprised by the severity of it when he woke up this morning. His tongue is bright red with a yellow coating. He has liver constriction beams, a stomach crack, and a bright red tip that has no coat. His pulses are rapid on the right with a floating sun pulse that is weak beneath, and there's some slipperiness and weakness in the guan position. On the left side, his pulses are rapid and tight. So we're working, sorry, I don't think you can hear me talk when I'm erasing. We're going to be working with the diagnosis of exterior wind heat invasion with some toxic heat. We're looking at the stomach, the lung, and the gallbladder. Treatment principles are release exterior wind heat and clear toxic heat, resolve hot phlegm, nourish fluids, and then after that, down the road, after the formula, we're going to create the treatment principle would be to focus on rest and building resources. So this time I am going to begin with methods of use. Is it how I normally do it, and hopefully it'll feel a little less choppy. I felt like I jumped around a little bit on the last case study. But so for this kind of presentation, and this fast-moving, fast onset wind heat with some toxic heat, we'll think about how we might want to use a formula for this type of condition. So I know that I want to do steam inhalation. And that's the one we talked about where they do the mug and the towel over their head. So I know we want to do that, and I'm gonna want him to do that 3 times a day for 3 days. And so we're going to send him with 30 drops for that, because if he's doing 3 drops at a time, that would be like 28 drops. So we'll just round that up and make, so for the steam inhalation, we're going to want 30 drops of formula neat to do the 3 days, 3 times a day. And then I want to do a 5 ml roller bottle. And this you can sort of come back to depending on once you choose your oils and the dilution rate that you choose, you might have a couple drops of the neat formula extra, or you might be one or two shy, based on the percentage. But we're gonna figure that let's reserve about 15 drops neat for to put in dilution in a 5 ml roller. If we don't end up needing 15, we can add, we can give 2 more steam inhalation times, or add it to something else. But so we'll reserve 15 drops neat. So far we know we need 30 drops for steam inhalation, 15 drops for the roller bottle, and then I'd also like to send him with an inhaler. And so for the inhaler, I typically get like 25 drops into those things. So 25 drops neat for that. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 drops. So by doing methods of use first, thinking through what methods of use we want to treat what the person is presenting with, we can figure out how much of our formula we need to make. So we know that we need to make 70 drops total of the neat formula. And then from there, we divide it out into these various methods of use to send him home with. So we're going to be, whatever formula we make, we're going to make 70 drops of it total. So we have our methods of use figured out, and then we'll cycle back around to those at the end to just talk about how we might want to use them. This inhaler is pretty much always as needed. We talked about the steam inhalation, so really the one we'll talk about is the 5 ml roller bottle, how he'll want to use that. So next, let's jump over to oils, individual oils. So with the ones that I considered, so again, what I'll do is I'll write down the ones that I decided on, and then I'll verbally run through the other ones that I thought of and didn't end up including. Just, I think it was helpful for you to see a little bit of what the thought process looks like of, starting out with a list of 8 and weeding it down to 4 or 5. So, thyme linalool, Rosalina, Ravensara, and ginger. And before we go through why I've ended up settling on these, I'm going to just talk about 3 that I considered that are not on the list. So Melissa was one of them. And Melissa strongly clears way level heat, relaxes the shen, opens the chest, and is a very strong antiviral. A lot of these do that. So I don't think we need Melissa. And there's a couple of reasons why I chose to boot that one first. The 1 to 2% dilution can be a little bit tricky to work with. We don't really need the heart connection, and it's really strong to connect with the heart. And these other ones are opening the chest, strong antivirals, strongly clearing way level heat. So I think we have it covered, and it's also extremely expensive. So I don't think it's necessarily called for here. And then rosemary was another one that I considered. I really considered it to balance out the cooling nature of the formula, and for the gallbladder affiliation, because it does have that ear thing happening. And it's great to release the exterior. So again, I kind of felt like we had other things that were doing it doing the things that it does, but it would be one to consider popping in here maybe in place of ginger, because that would be, replacing that with another warming oil, maybe depending on how severe the ear aspect of it is. And then I also considered Eucalyptus citridora. It clears a lot of heat, great to clear exterior wind heat invasion, lung stomach affinity. These are things we want in this case, but it's really strong to clear phlegm, and just not a whole lot of phlegm here. Just a lot of heat, and not as much phlegm. So that's why I chose to leave that one off. So out of the ones that I did choose, I chose Thyme Linalool, and I chose it as, where should I write that? Oh, right, I can't really move that. Sorry, I need to move myself. So I chose this as the Chief at 40%. And it's a top mid note. It's cool, and it goes to lung, stomach, and kidney. And we've got an 8% dilution rate. This is why this is our Chief. Clears fire from the lung and stomach. Strong affinity for the throat, which is where his real primary complaint and concern is. Rosalina chose to sit in the seat of deputy. It will be 30% of the formula. It's top, cool, lung, stomach, 8%. Clear wind heat, especially ENT. Clear stomach fire, and it's calming. Remember, it's the most calming of the Melaleucas. And he, sounds overworked, stressed. Calming will be a good thing. Ravensara chose to be in the role of assistant at 15%. It's mid-cool, goes to the lung and liver. Mid-note, cooling. Lung, liver, 6 to 10%. So again, really with our 8% there. It clears wind heat and lung heat, strong antiviral, wind heat, lung heat, antiviral. And it's good for when there's exhaustion and heat is burning away the chi. He's already dealing with his own heat burning away the chi from working so much, and exhaustion from that. So that felt like a good fit as well. And then Ginger is our second assistant, also at 15%. It's mid-note, it's hot, goes to lung, spleen, stomach, kidney, and it's a 4% dilution. Release exterior. Balance the cold of the formula, harmonize the middle jiao, active on the Renmai, which I think is appropriate here in terms of self-care, thinking of self-care. And I chose not to use an envoy because these two so strongly go right where we want them to. The chief and the deputy just bam, target and go straight to where we want the formula to go. So I didn't really feel like you needed an envoy here. I didn't really feel like I needed to take this to a different place or a different level. These go to Wei Qi, they go to the lung and the stomach. They're really doing what we want. And this is going to be a short-term formula. And then, so it's not as balanced as other formulas might be, but it's for something acute and something pretty severe. So let's go in, clear it out, have him come back in and start to deal with some of the underlying issues. So this formula is an example of that. And then when we talk about building the formula in the drops, so remember we're doing, I'll redo this. Actually, I'll leave that up. Time linalool. Chief 40%. So remember we're doing 70 drops total. So 70 times 0.4 comes to 28 drops. And then 70 times 0.3 for 30%, we get 21 drops. And then for the next two, we've got 70 times 0.15. That comes to 10.5 drops. So we can do 10 of one, 11 of the other. So let's do 10 drops of ginger and 11 drops of Ravensara. So we've got the same math right down here. And that's going to give us 70 drops total, neat, of the formula to work with. So hopefully, if that math seemed confusing the first time we talked about it in Module 4, it's getting clearer and it's quite straightforward, and each time hopefully it'll just flow more easily. So this is our basic formula. We have each oil, its position, its percentage in the formula, and how many drops we need to get the number that we want, which for our methods of use we decided is 70 drops total. So just to revisit that, we've got steam inhalation, 30 drops. So just put that in a little tiny bottle all by itself that you can do with a little dropper. So you can drop 3 drops in 3 times a day for 3 days. And then we've got the inhaler. And we decided on 25 drops neat for that, and you can use that as needed, real straightforward. And then the roller ball, we're just doing a 5 ml roller ball because this is acute. He's not going to be using it for long. Probably doesn't even need that much. They make these adorable little 2 millimeter ones because they'll, maybe use this for tops like 5 days or so. And so we talked about doing 15 drops in 5 ml of almond oil. And I would have them apply that. We have a lot of top note oils, so you could do this again because we're just using it short term. You can use it more, 4 to 5 times per day. Apply it to the chest, throat, around the ear canal where he's feeling that pain. And then some point ideas, he could do LI 11, LI 4, stomach 44, acupuncture points. You can get creative with that, where these treatment principles, which points might be a good fit to do it on. And I would probably do it on the points, 2 or 3 times a day, focusing on the chest, the throat, and that area around the ear that's bothering him. So that was our second exterior wind invasion, and this wraps up Module 5. And then in module 6, we're going to be looking at individual digestive oils, and then also creating a formula like we've done here based on a case study. Alrighty.